Okay, it started. Hello, my name is Mahogany Hill. I'm a first year biology pre-med major from Philadelphia, PA.
Hello, y'all. My name is Dylan Bethia. I'm a first year biochemistry major, minoring in chemical engineering, and I'm from Wake Forest, North Carolina.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Coker. I'm a first year biochem major from Prince George's County, Maryland.
Okay, here we will be discussing the migration patterns of the bird of prey species in Gulf Mountains, Nevada. To begin, I will start by saying that bird migration is a great biological indicator that allows people to see when seasons are changing. Many different factors play a role in migration, which include local temperature, weather, updrafts, thermal, age, sex, and geographic topography. Hawk migration is accounted for by directly observing birds in a remote area and taking note of the birds seen in a specific time. Research has shown that larger overall size of a bird is more adaptive for getting larger prey, facilitating water conservation and evaporation cooling. Larger birds also focus on soaring abilities and favorable weather, such as updrafts and thermals. Meanwhile, smaller birds, they have a more adaptive size towards smaller prey, and they focus more on favorable migration conditions and energy conservation while migrating. Because the focus of different sized birds are different and the favorable migration conditions for each bird are subjective, we came up with the research question: does the size of the bird of prey affect the period of migration? And we also hypothesized that the migration of smaller birds would take place earlier than the migration of larger birds.
So the methods that we used to collect our data was the hawkwatch.org site. We based it on the Joshua Mountains in Nevada, and basically the process of how the birds were watched were specialized bird watchers specialized bird watchers would sit and camp out on in the Joshua Mountains, and they would count the different birds, the different species of birds, and the amount of the abundance of each of the birds, and they would tally it for each day throughout the fall term of 2022. The period was from August to the month of November. And the way that we took that was from the watch site. So from the watch sites, we used Excel to put the data into it. We created charts. We recorded the species that was accounted for and the richness and abundance of them as well. To give some context, the Goshawood Mountains is a arid flatland native to rats, snakes, and smaller birds as well. And this brings us to our results. Our figure table 1.1 is kind of an explanation of the amount of birds that was seen in the Goshawood Mountains. The blue represents smaller birds, green is the medium-sized birds, and the yellow are the larger-sized birds. Figure 1.1 is a line graph of the month of September because that's when we found our most data. And please excuse if you see the screen shaking or any loud noises in the background. I'm currently traveling. But the line graph was for the month of September, and it's explaining that the abundance of the sharp-shinned hawk was mostly seen. With that being said, our second most seen bird was the red-tailed hawk. One thing that could be taken into account is that the fact that the sharp-shinned hawk, their prey is usually rats, reptiles, and snakes as well. So passing through the Goshawood Mountains, they might be able to land and refuel just so that they can get to warmer climates. Figure 1.2 is the frequency of occurrence of birds of prey in the Goshawood Mountains. So what we found was that basically 4,000% of the time when a bird would pass by, we would see that the sharp-shinned hawk was the bird that was being seen, basically. And then figure 1.3 is a comparison of species abundance for each of the months. And once again, we see the sharp-shinned hawk was definitely more abundant than any of the other hawks. And by one problem that we did run into though is that at the end of when we got to the end of the fall period, so during November, we could not necessarily use we cannot use the whole month of November because they only used a week of data. So that's one problem that we did run into when trying to find our results.
Okay, so for the discussion, as stated previously, our initial hypothesis was the migration of smaller birds will take place earlier in the fall term than the larger birds. As you can see, our hypothesis was supported by figure 1.1, which is a line graph showing the abundance of the birds of prey in the month of September in the Goshoot Mountains. Of all the hawks, the sharp-shinned hawk was the most abundant through the fall term, and the second most abundant was the northern heron. According to the data given, small hawks migrate in September, while the medium hawks migrate in October, and the larger hawks migrate following after. Although the month of August did fail to support our hypothesis, as said before, it was supported in the month of September. Our overall takeaway from the analysis was to show the fluctuations and the trends of when birds migrate and which ones migrate. We were also considering that in the future, we will look at longer periods of time just to see if the patterns remain consistent throughout future seasons.
Okay, so to conclude this, we would like to acknowledge Dr. Sean Dash for guiding us through this research, and we would like to acknowledge the Biological Science Department for this opportunity. We would also like to acknowledge the National Science Foundation for funding this opportunity at the university, and we would like to acknowledge the people who observed the hawks, who took tally and marked down of like every single species of hawk through this time period in the Goshoot Mountains, Nevada. Thank you for your time.